Canisius. Well, Canisius prepares for 75 years. But the story of Canisius is a long, long story. Join me today for a moment in history. As you know, we've been sharing and we've been updating you about some historical moments about Canisius, historical moments about Chikuni Mission, you know. But you might be wondering, what is Canisius? What is Chikuni? Well, maybe we start from the beginning. My name is Imano Hambokoma, and I was born in Chikuni Mission. I went to St. Canisius Secondary School. I got married at a Jesuit parish called St. Canisius Parish, and I served as the webmaster of the Jesuit Zambia Malawi province. I was also the communications coordinator of the Province Development Office of Zambia Malawi province. I'm from a family of collaborators, so the story is a long, long story. But today the story is not about Emmanuel. Today the story is about history around Canisius and still history around the missionaries. For us to be able to appreciate this history, we have to give credit to Father Eddie Murphy, who is joining us today. And Father Eddie Murphy started the library here, and then started the archives, and then he went to Zimbabwe and helped with the archives there for philosophy, and of course Kenya, and he's done a lot of work. Well, I'm not speaking for him, but I'm excited because he's there and he's here, and he's going to share one or two things. And of course, we're joined by the two special guests, Mr. Kaunda and Mr. Simule. These went to Canisius in 1969 and left Canisius in 1973. First of all, for those who do not know a bit about the library here and the archives, maybe just 1 or 2 minutes, let's get to know more about Father Eddie Murphy. Father Eddie Murphy, how are you?
Very well indeed.
It's great to have you, and you can see people there, they are watching you. And now, please get to know more about Father Eddie Murphy. So now the floor is his. Yes. Yeah.
I was always interested in books and collecting books. And so when I was ordained in 1970, I offered my superior here that I would set up a library for all the Jesuits. So I did, and it grew, and in time it was of great value. But then they were looking for a librarian for our House of Studies in Nairobi, and my name was the only one on the list. Nobody else was there because nobody else had done anything on library work among us Jesuits. So I ended up doing 20 years in Nairobi, and then 16 years in our philosophy in Harare.
Wow.
When I set up the library here, I set up a room of archives. So I remember going round the different Jesuit houses, collecting old papers and documents and journals. And there were some of the old fathers and brothers who would come out of their room with a little packet and would say, "I have kept this safely all these years. Now I'm happy to hand them on." So I was very happy. In a short time we collected a lot of the journals of the different houses and so on. And so the archives began. And then in time I moved off to Nairobi and to Harare, and Father Vincent Jeheski took over at one stage and even greatly expanded the archives. The archives now have about 750 boxes And what we're trying to do is to put them all in order. And the Jesuit fathers and brothers have been here in this country since 1905. There were one or two attempts beforehand, but they failed. But the only ones that succeeded was Father Morrow, who set up Chicuni in 1905, and Father Torrent, who set up Canisius a few weeks later in 1905. And then our fathers were expelled from Mozambique. And there was a group of Polish fathers who decided not to go back to Europe and be reassigned somewhere else, but to cross over the Luangwa River and see could they be allowed to settle a mission in northern Rhodesia. And the British authorities welcomed them, and so they settled at Katondwe, and that was in 1912. And very quickly they opened up another station, Chingombe, and then moved into Kabwe, and then linked up with Father Torrent, who was in Canisius. And it was from those early efforts that the Church of Lusaka was started. So while they began off away in the bush, the consequences were very important for the capital city today. So that's the importance of the Jesuit contribution. I'd just like to say something on Chicuni, particularly in the context of education. Father Morrow had one thing in mind when he came up, because he had already visited northern Rhodesia and had seen what people needed. And in his mind, he went back with 4 young men to Mpandeni in Zimbabwe with the explicit purpose to prepare them for settling in Chicuni 3 years later. And the one thing he wanted above all was to teach the local people how to use a plough. They had oxen, but they never had tied the oxen to a plough. So he brought a plough with him, and the 4 young men that he went with down to Zimbabwe, they became his right-hand men, and not only taught catechism, but also taught farming and taught people how to use a plough. And in 1905, in the first days of December, when the rains came, and they were quite late that year, he issued an invitation all over the countryside to come and watch him dig a furrow 100 meters long. And hundreds of people came in to see, and he pulled out his plough, he had trained his oxen, and down the field he went. And that was the beginning of his impact on Chicuni. He set up a school immediately for training in agriculture and in reading. And then from that school, teachers were trained, and they set up other schools. So that was the start off of Chicuni as an educational institution, but based on the plough. People reckon Father Morrow was often criticized by his fellow missionaries that he was only a farmer and not a missionary. And his answer was, in his own French culture, it was, "A hungry stomach has no ears." If people don't have enough food, they can't listen to what you're saying. So he fed the people, and because of that, they listened to what he had to say, and he preached the good news very successfully and lived for 40, 50, 60 years in Chicuni, a great renowned figure. In 1949, there was a young Czech who came out, Father Prokop, a very intelligent man. And he wanted the schooling to go into senior schooling. And he had a great trouble with the colonial administration. Their answer was, we already have Monali. What do you want a second secondary school for local people for? But he pushed and he shoved, and in 1949, Canisius Secondary School began as the second secondary school for local people in northern Rhodesia. And after that, nothing could stop Canisius, and nothing could stop Chikuni. A few years later, the government gave the Catholic bishops a teacher training college, and they said, we will put it in Chikuni. And that was Charles Dewanga that opened up in 1959. And that sealed the impact of the Catholic Church and the level of education. So that was the beginning. A few years later, the Irish Jesuits came out to look after the school and do some work in the parish. And then Canisius began to multiply, to increase and develop. And in the early 60s, they even went to Form 6. The university began, and so the Form 6s were discontinued. So the early impact of Chikuni was felt in the country because of its interest in education. And I like to think that Chikuni's impact went beyond Chikuni, not only in the people that it trained over those long, long years, but also in the people like the headmaster, Father Michael Kelly, who was remembered by our two visitors here as their headmaster, and the uproar in the school when he was taken away from being headmaster. And he was sent for further studies and came back into the School of Education at the university and became Professor of Education and ended up being Deputy Vice Chancellor of the whole campus. And in his old age did enormous work on AIDS and HIV. And I think that was Chikuni's contribution to education and development in the country.
Okay, thank you very much, Father Eddie Murphy. And I always say Father Eddie Murphy has a lot of knowledge, insights, and passion. His original subjects that he was trained to teach were sciences, was it?
Yes, in science, yes.
So, Father Eddie Murphy, when were you at Canisius?
I was in Canisius from 1964 to 1965, and then 1973 to 1975. And those early years, from 64 to 65, was just before independence, and so I was there for independence. And I can tell you, it was a wonderful time to be young. The independence was a great experience for anybody who was alive at the time. The country came alive. People were full of new ideas and full of a new creative desire to build something out of Zambia. So it was a wonderful time. We were all overstretched in the school, but everybody did 1.5 times teaching work with no difficulty because of the spirit that was in the place. It was a great time to live through.
Okay. We're joined by Mr. Kaunda and Mr. Simule. Mr. Simule, share with us a bit about yourself. Of course, you're not only a Canisian, but you've also been involved in St. Ignatius Parish and other areas. And we also have Mr. here, and I'm speaking slowly because I almost said something, but I think I'll leave that. I almost said that from this part of history, Mr. Kaunda has kind of spotted himself. So I think let me not go to that.
Yes, we all spotted ourselves.
Yeah. Let's get to know a bit about. Yeah.
No, thanks
Yes.
very much, Mr. Mbokoma. My name is Nifu Chulu Simule. I was at Canisius from 1969 to 73, 1973. And it's been very captivating listening to Father Murphy. There are a lot of things we never knew that he has managed to bring together here in terms of the archives and the history. Whilst at Canisius, I was the famous house, Constantine, and today I've learned about Constantine. I wasn't too sure where the name came from until today. We need to learn that it was somebody who was very keen to push through the school, but he was in Western Province. Am I right for that?
That's right.
Yes, and eventually ended up in Chikuni. But all said, we were also privileged to have met Mr. Mbokoma, because, and that's why we are here. As students who were at Canisius, I think we call ourselves pupils at that time, we've clocked 50 years since we left the school. From 73 to now. So only yesterday, as a group which we formed about a year ago, which I'm privileged to be the one chairing. I'm not too sure for how long, but at least up to today, as we continue our celebrations, a group of us from within Zambia and outside Zambia came together, and we have been meeting on Zoom. Thanks to the technology now, Father, we are able to communicate. And we came up with this idea that why don't we commemorate the 50 years. We know the school is commemorating the 75 years next year, but ours has come earlier, 50 years, in our own way. We managed to come together, and we are lucky even our own school captain, Mr. Luke Chikwama, came all the way from Pongwe, and he's with us there. So this afternoon we'll have some more celebrations. But just going back a bit, yesterday we traveled all the way to Canisius, and it was amazing. I mean, so many nostalgic moments. Looking at our hostels, we still went to see the chapel, the dining where we ate our beans. We liked our beans with a bit of insects, and and the cooking where we called it top soup. So we are reminding the cooks yesterday, this is too good beans. The beans you are giving us is too, we want the one with insects on a lighter note. So we went to the farmhouse, which was very popular as you live in school. If you stayed in farmhouse, there was something special about it. So we went to the farmhouse, we looked at the school fields. Nothing much has changed, of course. The buildings have changed. On the other side, the classrooms, there are new classrooms now, very beautiful buildings. We went to the labs. We were taken around by the current headmaster, Mr. John Mwanachingwala. Is Moya Mwanachingwala, who is a son of one of us in the class of 73, Mr. John Mwanachingwala as well, who was headmaster at Mazabuka Girls before he retired. So this has been amazing, an amazing experience the last 2 days, but the preparations have also been very interesting. For those who are watching, and obviously if you went to Canisius, obviously you know the name Mundale. We also passed through Mundale, and there are certain things you can't talk about Mundale which are very interesting. And for that kind of memory, we passed through there. We went to Charles Luanga, So it was quite an experience, and that's why we are here. Today we were invited. We thank Mr. Mbokoma. He asked me as chairman to see if we can come through, and we have managed to come. And today I've met Mr. Kaunda, my fellow constantine, Jimmy Kaunda. Those of us who were together, they remember him very well, Jimmy Kaunda. He hasn't changed much. Of course, a lot of us have lost our hair. But the faces still are the same. Now, coming to this archive, I think is something which Mr. Mbokoma, I must say, we probably are not very aware of in terms of its impact, what the depth of the material that is here. I mean, we are going through the albums, we went through the
You cannot show what you are going through.
and Father Murphy was so quick to pull out our own booklet for 73. This is specifically for 73. Everyone who was at Canisius in
We can also give Mr. Kaunda so that he can also hold one.
Yes. So this is all about the group of 73. So for those who didn't come, well, you have missed. You have to come here. I think we'll still arrange a special trip. Courtesy of Mr. Mbokoma. I think one of these days we'll come through.
It's actually courtesy of Father Eddie Murphy, because Father Eddie Murphy he's the man behind these works.
And we are amazed by his memories. We thought we were getting old, but he has made us look very young. with his memory, it's so sharp. So I don't think we have got any excuse, though we are nearing our 70s. But I don't think we have any excuse to anyone. So, but on a serious note, in here, there is everything to do with our group of 73. Further, we are concentrating on ourselves. I think you will excuse us.
Well, I have to put in a little thing is that I was looking for 72 and 71 and so on, but I didn't find them.
You see?
Yeah.
You
So
see,
We have some very fine ones of the 60s, so 66, 67, very fine.
Yes.
And then I think it went away down and it was coming up again in 73. So
This is
very lucky.
I think this is divine intervention.
yes,
we are the
can you
people.
imagine?
You're right.
Our group was,
Can you
has
imagine?
always been unique.
Yes, I think talking about uniqueness is something that we mentioned at Canisius yesterday, that even when we finished in 73, our group, if my memory serves me right, and I'm sure I'm right, we were the best from 5. We had the best results in the whole nation. So it was very interesting yesterday when we went to Canisius, where there was only last year, the feat was repeated. The class of 2022 was the best, the whole Zambia. So it was just a very good timing that 50 years later, discussing about the same kind of performance. So the school has continued to be a center of excellence, if you like, Father. And we are really very grateful to the Jesuits. Some of us have continued to relate with the Jesuits. I still go to Father McKenny, but I still go to St. Ignatius, and I was director of the Fete for almost 10 years. And I worked with the late Father Joe Kinney and Father Chilinda, everybody there. And I still remember we still meet with Father Clive, the professor at the university now. So the Jesuit family still goes strong, and we are still going there. A number of us, there are a lot of us that still congregate there from Canisius. But all said, coming to the topic at hand, the class of 73, we are really very, very grateful for what we went through, Father, and I'm sure if there's a way of saying thank you on behalf of the class of 73, we are saying thank you. But I still remember St. Ignatius. I overheard Mr. Mbokoma that he married there. I can tell you that I also married there in 1982. And my priest of the ceremony was Father Titland.
Oh.
Yes. Thank you so much, Father, and for accommodating us.
I could add a little personal reflection
Yes, Father.
about 1973, the year 1973.
Yes, tell us.
It took place in 1974 when you had gone.
Yes.
And I have a very clear memory, and it's only when you talk about it that I can now, it triggered off something in me.
Yes.
The results came, and the headmaster, Father Kelly, it was Father McKenna,
Father McKenna, yes.
announced to the school the results. And the whole school came out of all the classrooms cheering.
Okay. We
So
didn't know about that.
That was your 1973 results. I now realise.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. On behalf of my colleagues, it's a group thing. You know? Yeah.
So I was accepted at Canisius in 1969. I found myself at Canisius with my colleague here, our chairman, Mr. Simule. So, first of all, I would like to appreciate and congratulate Father Eddie Matthew here
Absolutely.
for the wonderful history that he has given us.
Congratulations.
And,
well done, well done.
Well,
He still was here.
I'm still very excited because last time I saw the father was in 1973 when we were just about to leave Canisius.
Wow!
That's the time we came there and he was introduced to us. And from that time, I've never seen him. But today I'm able to talk to him and I've seen him and I've seen what he has done. He has done a wonderful job here. Organizing and putting up an archive like this one. It's not something simple.
Absolutely.
The work that could be done by 1,000 people, he has managed to put it together. Obviously, he has had some help from others, but there's always one person who is supposed to be in front to push things, and he has done a wonderful job. He was able to show us our famous fathers who were teaching us. Our principal, the time we went there, it was Canisius College. Father Michael Kelly, I was able to see the photos of Father Kelly and the letters he wrote. Father McKenna, I was able to see the photos and a few other fathers. So all these are documented and they are properly stored and put so that at any time you can come and see. Canisius, it's a school that I always think about and cherish. My memories are always fresh in my mind. Each time I think of Canisius, I get excited because of the way I found things there.
Maybe we should say Viva.
Canisius.
Viva.
Canisius. And because of the way we were treated and the way we were molded by the fathers there and the teachers. The time we came out from that school, we were changed people. Even our working places, when I joined the Standard Chartered Bank, I was able to fit in that company. Although the time I joined, there were few blacks there, but I was able to fit in because the way I was brought up at Canisius, there was discipline, cleanliness, everything. And I was able to do the work according to the expectations of the company. Because there we were taught to do things properly and in an excellent manner.
Moniti Meriola,
Sekwama.
having been instructed, we follow the better things.
Yeah, sure. So Canisius, it has been a very good school from the time it was started. And Father Ed Matthew has been able to give us the full history of the people who pioneered the putting up of Canisius and the Chukuni mission. Sure, brothers and sisters, before you send your children to school, make sure you analyze and you look at the qualities of that school.
Yes.
Canisius is a shining example. Great men and women, especially men by that time, because it was only for boys. They used to call us boys by that time. All those who have passed through that school, they have become great. They have become icons. They have become people who have performed wonders and progressed in life. And there we were taught how to love one another, how to stand in for one another, how to cooperate, how to unite together for a good purpose. And this is why even up to today we are together as a unit of 73, united. But we are scattered, but we are in spirit, we are together.
Yes.
And when need arises, we come together, we meet, chat and discuss, and also think of our school where we passed through. We have not forgotten about Canisius. The little that we can do, we manage to do to help the school. And we also try, by all means, to advise the little ones that when they go to that school, they will never be disappointed when they come out of that. It's because of the way the school has been established. Even up to now, we still have people like Father Ed Matthew, who is able to work and continue working. I was amazed at his memory. There are some of us up to this time who are not even closer to his age, who are finding it difficult to remember things that happened 2-3 weeks ago. Others can't even remember what happened last week. But he can tell you, and he has already given us the full history, dating back to the 40s and the 50s, putting everything in sequence up to this time.
Yes.
And I'm sure when the interview is over, before we say farewell to Father Ed Matthew, I'll ask him the secret behind his memory.
That's a good one.
I don't know if Mr. Mokoma has any more questions, but you are also doing a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. May the Lord keep on blessing you.
And of course, in
Sure.
the background, behind the scenes, we also have James.
Yes, absolutely.
James is from St. Joseph's Parish, Kamanga.
Ah, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. I think
Now-
maybe just to add on, Mr. Mbokoma, there's something that Mr. Kaunda has mentioned, which I think we need to emphasize, re-emphasize, because I think even yesterday we talked about it. It's the unity. You know, we are now a family. The Canisian family is big. Wherever you go, if you meet a Canisian, there's that bond. But as a group of 73, to zero in on ourselves, we are literally a family. If anybody wants to feel like belonging to a family, that's how we are brought up in Canisius. When you are talking to any ex-Canisian, and particularly from the group of 73, those you were with, it's amazing how you feel, and like he mentioned, Canisius was a a national school. It was just becoming a national school. So when we met there, we are also pushed into a situation where we came out with that nationalistic approach to things. We knew no tribe there. We knew no segregation. And we have grown up like that. So it's something that we need to encourage even the current generation, that we are all from the same one Zambia, one nation. Thank you so much. So I thought I should move that Canisian family. It's bigger than what we actually try to talk about.
I'm sure when you look back at the time that you became a Jesuit, how many years ago? Do you remember?
Well, I became a Jesuit in 1956.
Wow.
So if you like to make the subtraction.
I was 1 year old.
So Father Ed Murphy has been a Jesuit since 1956. Is it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, 60.
When I was 5 years old.
Father Ed Murphy, you've been a Jesuit for this long. And today we're sitting with you. There's myself, who was at Canisius over maybe 20 years ago. And there are my elders that were at Canisius probably, we'll say, 50 years ago. The works of the Jesuits have spread across the world. Here, it shows what has happened from 1956.
When
When he became a Jesuit.
he became a Jesuit.
Jesuit
Yeah.
from 1956.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Father Eddie Murphy, we are also sitting in the library, and we're also dealing with the archives. Any message of gratitude? What motivates you? What has motivated you to keep moving?
Well, it's partially to help people help themselves. That's the whole point of a library. You can teach people face to face, and you can do all kinds of things to accompany people. But one of the best things that you can do to for a person, is to help them find out for themselves. And that's the point of a library. Somebody takes a book and reads it on his own and works things out on his own. So a library really is a way of self-improvement and self-development. So that's always been my interest in library, is to enable another person to get on their own feet and teach themselves and learn themselves by reading. And that would be the reason why I've spent so many of my years. That's why I in library work, and that's the great value in it for me. Get people to learn themselves, get people to search themselves, get people to reflect on their own life themselves, and doing that with the aid of a book. So that's, I think, what is important in library work.
Wherever I go, if you see a person who is totally unique and different from others, the way he behaves, talks, acts, works, the discipline part of it, if you ask that person, usually they tell me they pass through Canisius. You can find out in different places, Canisians are not difficult to identify. They are hardworking, disciplined, and they are people who are out to do good things. And in most cases, they are always on top of things. And there is a common thing which is among Canisians, is love for one another. That is something that we got from there. And when I look back, I appreciate what Father Ed Murphy and the rest of the fathers did for us. Surely that's how you can compliment and also confirm that these are true missionaries. No doubt about it. They were there to do what God wants them to do to humanity. And they put education in the forefront. Proper education, not education provided this education, is proper education. This is why he's able at this age to have documentaries of things properly recorded and also properly secured so that people can learn from those.
I think I'll take it from where Mr. Kaunda has ended. One thing you really learn as you grow up or as you come out of Canisius is that situation where you come out as a full human being. I think we have discussed this a few times. Apart from education, you develop other attributes that are required of a human being to do. So when coming to St. Ignatius, I think I learned again collaborating with the Jesuits, and it was nice to meet them once again at St. Ignatius. Once in a while, I would meet Father McGiven, I would meet Father O'Connell. I mean, they would come through there. But working with Father Kinney as a parish priest also taught me a few more things. It was like carrying over the kind of work where you are working for the people. The way to organize things and end up with the objective achieved. And where the center, again, is continuing that the resources you are raising from the faith, for instance, are meant to help the word of God, the missionary work, continue. As you have said, where you are trying to bring up the young Jesuits. But I think more in terms of impact, I was very touched by the kind of help that from the resources that were raised and the spirit you saw, you would see at St. Ignatius, everyone getting involved in one way or the other. And when you raise the money, the parish council and the parish priest, Father Joaquin, and you'll be amazed that you rightly mentioned the kind of requests you get people trying to seek help. I remember 2 specific incidents just to highlight that. There was a small parish in Western Province. All they needed was a 2,000 kwacha to buy benches for the church. And when they got that, it was like heaven on earth. You couldn't believe that you had done it. So it was very self-satisfying. There was another request I know from Petauke, and even there they were not even nothing to do with Catholicism or whatever. It was just a community place, I think, for orphans. They also wanted something, and the church was obliged to help them. But there's one last one, I think, which still continues to touch, I think, not only me, but I think anyone who has gone through the faith. There's a place in Matero, Chueledi, you know, where they deal with the deaf, the dumb. It's a school. You'll be amazed what the faith has done. Over the years, I think they helped towards the teachers' salaries and all these things, trying to help. And at one time, may his soul rest in peace, I think just before, it's not long ago, probably 10 years ago, as he was not feeling well, Father Kinney was in Ireland, he was able to raise money for that same place, for a minibus, which I'm sure is still there. So the faith was beyond just St. Ignatius Parish. The spirit of helping the underprivileged or caring for the underprivileged still continued, and that for me was the most satisfying part. So you learn a lot, and I still emphasize you go beyond education when you go to Canisius. You come out of there as a full human being. I think Mr. Kaunda has ably elaborated areas of family, love, trying to share, understanding people. All those things, they come. When you are there, probably you don't realize. But by the time you settle, these things come out. And I dare say, you are a good example. From nowhere, you're now busy doing all these documentaries, and just for people to appreciate. I don't think that anybody pushed you, but that self-motivation at Canisius is also another.
The Canisian
The innovation
spirit.
is the Canisian spirit. And we have seen it even when we joke about each other on these WhatsApp groups, the Canisius alumni, Canisian alumni. You can see people are doing all sorts of things for the community. I thank you.
When I set up the library just for the Jesuits in the country and other church personnel, it was in the 60s, and it was after independence, and it was after the Vatican Council. So all our men felt a great need to keep reading because things were changing all over. So those years of the 60s, 70s and 80s were the years when the library really fulfilled a great function. And so that's how it really got going and developed. The archives, I was always interested in history, and I was always interested in collecting. And I was very struck by a number of old fathers and brothers who had on their own collected material and kept it. And so I was able to continue their tradition and putting it together. So it gradually grew down the years. And eventually, with the help of many other people, I was able to edit a book on the history of the Jesuits in Zambia, with a lot of other people writing in it as well. I would have just edited the book, not really written the book. So that was always my interest, hobby, if you like, to find out about where I came from, and what does it mean, and what does the past mean, and what's the meaning of the present. And so the importance of looking back into the past. For instance, living and working in Zambia, we have a great tradition in Zambia of peace. There's never been a coup, there's never been any violence, there's never been any war. And that's not an accident. That's something that's deep in the people of Zambia. So I'd be very interested in learning about it and seeing where does it come from. It's part of our heritage, part of our own living wisdom, and we live it out today. So that would be my interest in history, trying to understand the present in terms of what happened in the past. Today I would be very interested in learning about all the modern changes that are going on with mobile phones and new inventions, because the world is changing, and how it changes and how it grows depends on how we look upon the past and how we are open to the changes of the future. At this moment, the Pope has organized a synod of bishops and lay people in Rome to try and cope with the changes in the church and the changes in the world. Yeah, I'd be very interested in all those changes. I'm not interested in change in itself. I'm interested in trying to understand how to grow today and how the world is changing and its values and its outlook. For instance, the role of women today is completely changing. So there's huge social changes taking place in the world. And so the whole structure of the family is changing. And to live life today, I think I need to come in contact with a lot of those changes that are taking place in the social structures of the world in order to live life fully and to be happy and to cooperate with the changes as they come and to learn how to discern what changes are good and what changes can help and what changes are not helpful. So that would be kind of my attitude to life, and that would go back to my own interest in history.
Thanks so much, Mr. Ambokoma, for giving us this privilege to come through as a group of 73, 69 to 73, represented by myself and Mr. Jimmy Kaunda. Fortunately, we are both from Constantine. I like saying that because I know it provokes a lot of excitement from people who are going to see this from other hostels. But at least Constantine is leading today. We would like to thank also Father Eddie Murphy and through him for this wonderful place. I think it's something that all I can say is trying to describe it is a bit, it would be better for people to come and see. For those who like to believe by seeing. So come and see. We thought we would be here for some 30 minutes. We are here over an hour or so. So it's a place where if you want to feel young again, like Mr. Kaunda said, if you want to become a boy again, come through and see what happened at Canisius. For the Jesuits, through Father Eddie Murphy, we continue to thank you for that school. Like Mr. Kaunda mentioned and Mr. Ambokoma, the issue of leadership, these things, you see them in Canisius. I myself have been able to lead even the Zambia Institute of Marketing as a founder member and even president at one time, the Institute of Directors. It just, somehow people just identify something in you. I'm not talking about myself. I think most Canisians, they find themselves in these situations because of the
qualities they have.
The qualities that we are not literally trying to be proud, but people identify in ourselves. And it's all because of what we went through at Canisius. So we are very, very grateful. And on behalf of the group of 73, we would like to thank you. And Father, we are really very, very excited and very grateful that you hosted us today. Be rest assured that what we have provoked today as we go to talk to our friends, next time you'll have a huge group coming here and you'll have to start all over again. And maybe even stop people from touching things that they shouldn't touch. Otherwise, there's an excitement, and we thank Mr. Ambokoma for the great work he's doing. Thank you so much. And for everyone who is watching this documentary, we thank you for your time, and God bless.
Father Moro was good with agriculture. Father Torrent, on the other side, was good with languages. Now, the combination of Father Moro with agriculture and Father Torrent with languages led to a lot of work that was being done, also for Eddie Murphy. So what I'm simply trying to say is that we have so many gifts around.
Absolutely.
And in the spirit of collaboration, get involved in the works of the Jesuits. We have the Jesuit Collaborators Network for Southern Africa, and those days it was for Zambia, Malawi province. At the end of the day, we can all do a lot together. Jesuits, lay people, other religious, Catholics, non-Catholics. We can all be able to collaborate and do more together. So thank you all, and together we'll continue sharing the story.